Vince McMahon. Right out of the gate in January, Orton had aligned himself with Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase Jr. to form Legacy, a faction of third-generation stars. But this wasn't some nostalgia act. This was Orton building a shield around his own instability. See, Orton was portrayed as having IED, intermittent explosive disorder. Now, let's be clear, the disorder itself is real. But WWE's version? That was storyline license to turn Randy Orton into a snake with no moral brakes. And Vince McMahon, the on-screen boss, tried to confront him. That led to a segment where Orton, defiant and twitching with rage, punted Vince in the skull. The chairman collapsed. The commentary team went silent. The crowd didn't know whether to boo or gasp. This wasn't the kind of thing you saw every week. It felt like a hit. A made-for-TV mafia-style hit. And with Vince out, Orton drew battle lines with the rest of the McMahon family. Shane McMahon. Shane returned, not as a businessman, not as a talker, but as a son out for revenge. His feud with Orton was as raw as it gets. No contracts, no promos about legacy, just fists. There's this moment on Raw where Shane tackles Orton over the announce table and throws wildly inaccurate punches. But the energy in the building is insane. It wasn't polished, but it was personal. At No Way Out, they had a match that walked a fine line between violence and spectacle. Shane flew coast to coast, cracked kendo sticks over backs, and nearly stole the win. But Orton had Cody and Ted, and they made the numbers count. Orton RKO'd Shane and picked up the win, but the beating didn't stop there. What followed was a chair shot to the head, a spot that had already been banned due to concussion concerns. WWE actually edited it out of future airings. That's how far they pushed Orton's character. But if Shane was the appetizer, Triple H was the main course. Triple H. Now, Triple H wasn't just the WWE champion, he was married to Stephanie McMahon. That made this storyline go from wrestling rivalry to psychological warfare. Orton RKO'd Stephanie. Then, as Triple H was handcuffed to the ropes, Orton kissed her unconscious body. Even in wrestling's long list of shock angles, this one sits near the top. It was graphic, it was unsettling, and it made people want to see Orton get destroyed. Triple H responded in kind. He broke into Orton's house in a now infamous home invasion segment. He smashed windows, fought through furniture. It was melodramatic, but it fit the feud. This wasn't about titles anymore. This was about humiliation, dominance, and retribution. So they met at WrestleMania 25. And it flopped. On a card with Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, a match people still call the greatest of all time, Orton versus Triple H was too slow, too overbooked, and too safe. There was a stipulation where if Triple H got disqualified, he'd lose the title. That killed the intensity before the bell even rang. Triple H retained. The crowd sat quietly, and the hottest feud of the year fizzled. But WWE wasn't done. They had a backup plan. The McMahon-Helmsley family. At Backlash, WWE rolled out a six-man tag match with one unique wrinkle. Whoever scored the pinfall would become WWE champion. Orton, Rhodes, and DiBiase versus Triple H, Batista, and Shane. This match worked because the stakes made sense. It felt chaotic but controlled. Legacy functioned like a unit, taking cheap shots, drawing heat. And when Orton punted Triple H to win the WWE title, the crowd didn't cheer. But they reacted, loudly. Orton finally held the belt again, but it wouldn't be easy to keep. Batista. With Triple H written off TV from the punt, Batista took the reins. Now, Batista and Orton were no strangers. They were both Evolution guys, both seen as the next-in-line guys back in 2004. But where Batista had gone face and leaned into the crowd, Orton had gone colder, darker, and more vicious. Their matches were stiff. Orton would slap Batista mid-match. Batista would respond with spine-busters that shook the mat. They met at Extreme Rules in a steel cage. Batista won the title, but then tore his bicep again. The title was vacated, and Orton weaseled his way back into a fatal four-way and reclaimed it. If you're noticing a pattern, it's that Orton never dominates for long stretches. He wins ugly. He wins through chaos. And when his opponents go down due to injury or interference, Orton always finds a way to slide back to the top. John Cena. WWE had tried Cena versus Orton in the past, but 2009 was when they bet the house on it. They faced off on 4 straight PPVs: SummerSlam, Breaking Point, Hell in a Cell, and Bragging Rights. It was oversaturation. But the psychology behind each match changed, which made them feel different. At SummerSlam, Orton cheated constantly. The match was restarted 3 times. It was a mess, but intentional. Orton retained through pure chaos. At Breaking Point, they did an I Quit match. And Orton absolutely tortured Cena. He tied him to the post with handcuffs and used kendo sticks to brutalize him. But Cena broke free, locked in the STF, and Orton quit. At Hell in a Cell, Orton won the belt again with a clean RKO. Finally, a definitive victory. And at Bragging Rights, they did an hour-long Iron Man match. Cena won 6 falls to 5. It featured backstage brawls, pyrotechnics, and an RKO on the steel steps. That match was a war. But by the end, people were burned out. 4 PPVs in a row. Same 2 guys. It's the kind of booking that only works if both characters evolve. Cena didn't. Orton barely did. And by November, the feud was over. Kofi Kingston. At Survivor Series, Kofi pinned Orton clean. That might not sound like much, but it was huge. Orton rarely took clean pinfalls, especially from a rising mid-carder. Kofi doubled down by destroying Orton's car on live TV. He ran down, smashed it with a crowbar, then hit a boom drop through the windshield. It was the kind of babyface moment fans eat up. And for a moment, it looked like WWE was ready to make Kofi a star 10 years before Kofi Mania. But that momentum didn't last. At TLC, Orton beat Kofi clean, and the push was over. Backstage stories say Orton didn't trust Kofi's timing. There's a moment on Raw where Orton yells, "Stupid!" after a miscommunication in the ring. That moment went viral later, but in the moment, it buried Kofi. Legacy. While all these feuds were happening, Legacy was starting to splinter. Ted DiBiase Jr. was starting to get pops from the crowd. Cody was quietly positioning himself as a mouthpiece. Orton? He was growing more paranoid, more controlling. The tension was clear, but WWE dragged it into 2010 before pulling the trigger on a breakup. And that's every 2009 Randy Orton feud explained. These kinds of videos go up all the time here, so hit subscribe if you want more. Thanks for watching.